And we are back, everyone.
All right.
We are continuing our conversation with our guest today, Sonia Martinez.
You know it.
But we are now going to shift things a little bit and now address then our question of the week, which was, if marijuana was legalized, what impact would that have in your community?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Proposition 205 is on the Arizona ballot this November. And Sonia is part of the committee and organization, if you will, to inform the public about this proposition. And I'm going to leave it now to Sonia to explain then what she's doing regarding that and information that she's getting out to the public.
Please explain it to us.
We want to know.
Okay, well, I will tell you what I do know. Sonia Martinez, attorney in Mesa, Arizona, and I am currently working with a campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol. That is actually the campaign that has put Proposition 205 on the ballot, and it's coined as it is for a variety of reasons, including to really highlight the hypocrisy of the basically of the prohibition of cannabis in this state. And speaking of hypocrisy, before I get into a lot of what the initiative is actually about, let me just point out that the current main opponents, including Bill Montgomery and other individuals, Arizona for Responsible Drug Use, they just recently got a $500,000 donation from a company out of Chandler, Arizona, that is essentially an opiate maker, but also a company that is planning to make synthetic cannabis and want to sell it on the market as soon as soon as they hope that cannabis, the legalization wouldn't go through. So just to point that out.
A synthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Synthetic. It's going to be made in a laboratory, and they apparently intend to sell it to our community members.
Like salvia? I mean, what?
So now kind of go back a little bit and maybe just inform those that maybe don't know the difference between an opiate and the benefits of cannabis. Can you compare the two?
Well, I personally cannot compare to the two in the sense that I am fortunate enough to never have had to take any opiates. Mm-hmm. I am a Proposition 203 patient, which means that I am a person who does use medical cannabis when I have to deal with chronic pain. So I've been lucky enough to not ever subject myself to pharmaceuticals, but I definitely know that a variety of studies have come out with respect to opiates, which are essentially painkillers, if you will. And a lot of the studies that show that for states that do have medical marijuana, those are states where individuals, the statistics are less individuals die from opiate use, opiate overdose, and opiate type injuries, if you will, primarily overdoses and in combinations with other things like alcohol and other drugs. So essentially, if you have chronic pain, you could either take an opiate, a pharmaceutical that's manufactured in a company somewhere in a lab, or you could utilize cannabis, which is, as we all know, a natural plant, and you could use it in a variety of different forms, including smoking it, vaporizing it, utilizing it in edibles, utilizing it in tinctures, which are oils that you put under your tongue. You could use it in different sprays, body lotions. There's even a company out there called Mary's Medicinals that has come out with a localized pain patch.
Wow.
So you could actually utilize cannabis for pain relief in a variety of different forms. And that's just talking about pain relief and its comparison to opiates in cannabis. As we spoke a little bit before the show even went on, cannabis is used for a variety of different ailments, from your average headache to anti-seizure properties.
Now that I've seen some things like that, some of the anti-seizure property, like I forgot what it was. It wasn't. I might be thinking about Lazarus oil or something like that. I think there was a movie, but it kind of reminded me of that, where someone actually made oils out of, I guess, hemp. Like some of the hemp, is it the hemp or the cannabis that are the properties that help people out? What is it in? Is it the THC? What is it inside of the weed, the marijuana, the cannabis that helps out people medicinally versus the people who do it recreationally, who just do it just to get high?
Okay, so let's kind of orient ourselves here.
All right.
First and foremost, cannabis is always medicinal, if you will. That is, if you consume cannabis, it's going to have a medicinal therapeutic effect on your body in some way, shape, or form, whether that's relaxing you a little bit more, whether that's giving you a sense of relief so that you could have sleep that night, or if you're having issues with not eating or pain issues. No matter what your intention is when you consume cannabis, it's always going to be medicinal in some sense, if you will. Let me be clear, though. There are a variety of different types of cannabis. There are the main types, if you will, are sativas and indicas. Sativas are for very specific ailments and for specific things, to treat specific things. If you use indicas are to treat other types of ailments. So, for example, I will tell you, I am a person who probably for the past 5 years hasn't smoked any sativa cannabis because sativas do not do anything for me in terms of what I need to cure my chronic pain due to my back injury. And then there's a form of cannabis is essentially very high CBD cannabis that has very low, what they call THC. So high CBD cannabis is cannabis that people use for seizure disorders and things like that. What a lot of companies who are studying the different compounds of THC are realizing is that there are just dozens and dozens and dozens of different compounds in cannabis. So it's not just the CBDs. It's the CBDs, it's the THCs, it's everything combined in its synergistic effect that make it medicinal. But again, depending on what your ailment is, you're going to use certain types and certain volumes and certain concentrates. And you have to be educated about what those different types are and how much you should use.
So then, if this proposition is passed, could that mean then that Joe Blow down the street can just go ahead and start smoking up his weed in front of the Circle K or in front of a church or a school because now it's legalized?
Of course not. That would be silly and that would be, not responsible and not safe. To be clear, there's a time, place, and there are time, place, and manner provisions within this initiative, including a provision that says you cannot smoke in public. Of course, you can't smoke in public. Not everybody appreciates the smoke. Again, realistically, it's always going to be medicinal. So you have to be careful about it. Again, time, place, and manner restrictions. So there's no smoking in public. You can't drive impaired. There's still all the rules and regulations about that. There are regulations in it with respect to employers and employer rights as respects what they could do to their employees. There are regulations in there as respects local rights. So cities have the right to say no dispensaries in our city.
So it almost sounds like they can kind of treat it exactly like alcohol. I mean, if they regulate it like alcohol, which seems like it's a lot more dangerous in the world, but if they can regulate it like alcohol, then it would just be fine. Just like you can't drink at work, you can't drink and drive in public impaired.
You can drink in church.
You can't drink. I mean, you can, but it's the blood of. Drinking. I mean, the same thing with marijuana. Like you said, you can vaporize it. You can be cool about it. Basically, you don't have to abuse the system. And I think that's what people think is going to happen if you legalize it. Prop 205 going past and all of a sudden, chaos. That's when everybody's going to come out and go crazy,
Stoners everywhere.
Stoners
unite, free the weed.
Oh my God, it's going to be nuts. Because that always happens.
Right.
And that couldn't be farther from the truth. The reality, the way I look at it is I look at it in a variety of different ways, including if it legalizes, anybody who used cannabis before is probably going to continue to use it. Anybody who didn't use it before is probably not going to use it just because it's legalized. Don't get me wrong. Are some people perhaps going to experiment with it? Perhaps. Right. But I've known enough people to experiment with cannabis and decide it's not for them.
Right.
It doesn't, they don't appreciate it. It doesn't help them. There's nothing about it that, they want to continue to use it for. So in my opinion, the individuals that do use are going to continue. The individuals that don't are going to continue not to.
Right.
I don't think there's going to be any significant change as respects the consumers, if you will. But I think that one important thing, that was just mentioned was essentially all of these presumptions and these stereotypes as to what may happen.
Right.
It couldn't be further from the truth.
Now, did they have any not experiments, but I guess first case studies? Some case studies such as the legalization in Denver?
Do they state of Colorado,
and even the whole state of Colorado. I mean, where chaos has not ensued and people have gone crazy, but have other things happened? Maybe impaired driving, or were there increases in anything that you know of?
Well, there were definitely decreases. There were a study out of Colorado, a recent study showed that there is actually a decrease in the rate of teenage use of cannabis.
Look at that.
So as much as there's a theory that it's going to pass and a lot more teens are going to start smoking, actually the opposite has come to fruition out of Colorado. There were a variety of studies that were just done on impaired driving, including a study by AAA that alleged an increase in impaired drivers and alleged an increase in accidents. However, if you actually read the footnotes, if you actually read that study and read the footnotes make it very clear that they will not be able to correlate any increase in accidents or anything to do with impaired driving with the legalization of recreational cannabis in their state.
Just like teenagers, once it's legalized, it's like it's not cool
It's
anymore.
not fun anymore.
Yeah,
I don't want to do it no more. And Sonia, you touched a little bit about previously who the opposition is on this proposition. Can you describe more about some of the key players and why they're opposing, again, legalizing recreational use of marijuana?
Sure. Actually, there's a variety of different opponents. The main opponents are those that you would actually expect. That is our county attorney, Bill Montgomery, Yavapai County Attorney Sheila Polk, Arizona's for safe and responsible drugs. Again, so there are prosecutors, if you will, and other organizations that essentially want to stomp out drugs everywhere, if you will. So those are the obvious ones, but there are some not so obvious ones. For example, there's an organization called Safer Arizona. Safer Arizona is an organization that does not appreciate this initiative because, in a nutshell, and I can't speak for them, but I've seen enough of their writings to know that they believe it's not true legalization. They believe that certain things in the initiative, for example, the fact that one could still be charged with a felony if they are caught with over an ounce of cannabis on them, that's true in the initiative still. Over an ounce. So Safer Arizona is a group that does want to legalize cannabis here in Arizona, but they don't like how this initiative is written. They think that this initiative is very pro-dispensary owner. It is not a true legalization in that there should be no criminal penalties at all, et cetera, et cetera. And while I appreciate that and very much agree with some of the comments and concerns, respecting the issue whether this is full legalization or not, what I definitely also have to remember is that we are in the state of Arizona. We are in a red conservative state.
Yep.
We are not, in Long Beach, California, where we're talking about this. We're talking about it in a state that only passed medical marijuana with 5,000 additional votes. It was very, very, very close 5 years ago when we got medical marijuana.
Not very well known as a progressive state. Yeah. Not very well known as that.
Yeah, so there's not so obvious, and then there's the group of other folks. I was talking to some of what we call bud tenders in dispensaries, the individuals that are at the counters, showing you the different goods they have. They're called bud tenders, just like bartenders. They're bud tenders.
That's hysterical.
Bud tenders, and the bud tenders. There was a couple of that I've talked to. I've asked them about what their thoughts are, and some of them have said, "Hey, well, we've tried so hard to make this medicinal, that now making it recreational, if you will, it kind of is defeating the purpose." And so they have issues with that. However, the way I see it and the way I know it, again, is that cannabis is one of the, and I don't know of any other plant that is out there like this or anything like this. It is the one plant that could, depending on how much you use and what you use, could help you take a nap, could get rid of that headache, or could actually stop your child from having grand mal seizures.
Yeah. I mean, it's been proven. I mean, they've done studies on this.
So there's a wide variety and the spectrum of how you could how cannabis could be used is so wide and so varied.
And to me, it's scary to hear of a pharmaceutical company that's trying to imitate that synergistic quality that the plant has. You can't duplicate nature.
You can't duplicate nature.
You can't.
They try. They're cloning. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right.
Stem cell weed. Yeah, sure. Okay. Anyway, you know what? We got to give a shout out to Sonia Martinez,
Thank
attorney-in-law. Thank you for coming
Thank
here.
you.
And in case you want to know, the Arizona Marijuana Legalization Initiative, also known as Proposition 205, is on the November 8th, 2006 ballot in Arizona as an initiated state statute.
Vote, vote, vote. Get out there and vote.
Yeah, make sure you vote. And, we love this.
Thank y'all.